This Father's Day, give the gift of reading with a great book. Celebrating the bond between fathers and daughters, Tai the Dreamer is a heartwarming story of a lovable daddy's girl and her cuddly, adorable cat. Dream big dreams and make them come true with Tai the Dreamer. Get your copy at itascabooks.com. That's ITASCA books.com. Happy Father's Day from Tai the Dreamer.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. Our guest today is Deneé Barracato. Deneé is the Deputy Director of Athletics over Operations and Capital Projects at Northwestern. Greetings, Deneé. Thanks for joining us.
Well, happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
No problem. So you talk about operations and capital projects. From the outside looking in, when I look at that title, it sounds like you're making things run within the department, but then you're also building a bunch of facilities so that you guys can compete with everybody in terms of the arms race. Am I wrong about that? If I'm wrong, correct me.
No, you're absolutely right. And I would also say to give our student athletes the best experience while they're at Northwestern. So certainly have an incredible team that works with us at Northwestern. And over the years of being there, we've embarked on so many incredible projects with the support of our donors and our alum that want to give back to a program to provide our student athletes with a world-class experience. Yeah. So really fortunate to be part of the team and work within a world-class environment like Northwestern.
Right. And Northwestern is interesting, especially now when you talk about having to play a season or two away from home, and you're involved in stadiums and temporary stadiums and all those types of things. Tell me about your involvement in that. And really when it came to trying to solve the problem, actually, that's an interesting concept too.
Yeah, no, of course. So currently we're in the process of constructing a brand new football stadium. Yeah. The Ryan family, who's been a staple at Northwestern, was so incredibly generous with the transformational gift that they gave us that allow us to build a brand new football stadium. And we knew that we were going to be off-site for 2 years during the construction period, but we also came off of an incredible football season where we went 8-5 with our new head coach, David Braun, who really positioned our team to come here back to the Las Vegas to play in the Las Vegas Bowl. We ended up beating Utah here in December, and so we wanted to continue that momentum. And certainly doing that was really difficult, not playing on your home site or on campus. So a few members of our Northwestern community just shared this idea of playing on campus on our soccer and lacrosse field, Martin Stadium. And we looked into the idea, and initially there were some challenges there. So that way we didn't really impact some of our other Olympic sports. And so we found a way. We found a way to be successful while really giving our football program continuous momentum leading into this season coming up. And so we're working with In Production, and we're partnering with Nations Group to really build an incredible lakeside venue that would give our team a home to play on this upcoming season. Yeah. So it is a campus initiative that all the way up to our president's office is really supportive of. So we have a great team internally within the university, but also with athletics that are really putting this together. And as I sit here right now, they are on the field constructing this amazing temporary facility.
A temporary football stadium sounds crazy to me.
I know.
Right?
It is, but it's going to be incredible.
So you being involved in it, how do you decide, like, the number of seats? How do you, beyond the 55 yards this way and 100, like, how do you decide the rest for temporary, right?
Well, our footprint really kind of directed us, right? There's so much space that we have. But In Production, they do this, nationwide and globally, and they erect these incredible temporary facilities. So they helped us really in identifying what we can do within the footprint that we had. And then we also have incredible legends on campus, which help us with our ticket sales and the strategy behind how we're going to sell the seats, what the manifest is going to look like based on the structure that In Production has shared with us. So our team along with our development team and our ticket office and our marketing team, they really work together along with Legends to kind of create this idea of, okay, how can we build this momentum with our team while also selling tickets, generating revenue with our partner Learfield, who really oversees our MMR efforts. And so we just thought that it was going to be an incredible opportunity to utilize our footprint in a very tight footprint, I would say. To really leverage and maximize the space that we had. So it wasn't a perfect science, but definitely was a collaborative effort. And we're not only playing 5 games on campus, but we're also playing 2 games offsite at iconic Wrigley Field. So that allows us kind of the flexibility with the NCAA requirements for minimum standards.
What does a temporary? Have you seen a temporary football stadium before?
Well, right now, Florida State, right, they're working with Nations Group and In Production currently, so they have something there that they're working on. Texas A&M also worked in some capacity with a temporary, not to this capacity, right? This is, I think theirs is an extension of their permanent facility. So this is what we're going to rely on for the next 18 months for 2 seasons.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's a undertaking that we're all really excited about, and I think many of our season ticket holders, our community members, are so excited about playing on the lake. We have a beautiful backdrop in Lake Michigan, and I think our other programs will be the beneficiaries of having this temporary facility, and we're working on leaving them better off than where we found them.
Yeah,
so
100%. You mentioned Legends and you mentioned Learfield.
Yes.
Legends haven't they expanded to do some of the things that Learfield does, or are they just in facility operations and
no, they have. Legends is a world-class organization. Yeah, they have so many different areas that they are experts on, whether it's market feasibility, whether it's analytics, ticket sales, hospitality, premium. They do so many things.
That's what I mean. So there's some things, ticket sales specifically, that Pacquiao and Learfield do.
Absolutely. And right now we actually are partnered with Pacquiao as well. So they manage our ticket distribution efforts and everything that we do online through mobile apps. And so we work hand in hand with them. So we have a really good relationship. And I think nowadays, especially in our industry, there's so many different third-party vendors and different organizations that really help support the efforts that we do on campus from an athletic perspective. So
it's interesting. You just
every day it's something new.
You decide what service you want to use, with what service provider you want to use.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's super interesting. You played basketball.
Yes.
Right. Dabbled in deciding on the GoPro. Dabbled in deciding if basketball was a long-term career or was it that's the end of your career type situation. Right. Then you decide on the inflection point for you will be if you want to work in sports, or do I want to go off and sell medical equipment, or do I want to go off and become a financial analyst, right? Tell me about the inflection point you saw when you decided that, am I going to go into coaching? Am I going to go into administration? What am I going to do here with the rest of my life?
Right. I think every person at one point in their life kind of reflects on what motivates them, what makes them tick. And for me, it was basketball. I loved it. I fell in love with it at a probably later age because I didn't start playing until the age of 12 organizationally. And after I finished playing, I said, I can't see myself doing anything other than this, right? I just love sport. I love what it did to my confidence. I love the idea of competition and just really being in the thick of it. But I also didn't see myself outside of sport in a professional realm. So I wanted to give back to an industry that gave me so much. It really impacted me in ways that, perhaps if I wasn't in that industry, at least in my mind, I didn't know if I was going to be as polished. I didn't know if I was going to have the same etiquette, the things that it taught me in terms of work ethic and just resilience, teamwork, all the things that we learn as a student athlete. And so I just didn't know if there was a different path for me. So as I reflected on my experience, I said, well, what else can I do in the realm of sport? I knew I wasn't, at that point, the WNBA was just starting. Yeah. Unfortunately, I wasn't good enough to be in the likes of Cheryl Swoops and Rebecca Lobo and, just some of the stars that we still embrace today. So I said, well, what else can I do? And as I mentioned to you earlier, I stayed in contact with an assistant coach of mine, and she was head coach at a Division II institution at the time. And she said, well, we have an entry-level position. And I said, I would love it. And so she introduced me to the athletic director at the time. And him and we just hit it off. And he said, okay, let's see how this works. And I did not take that opportunity for granted. I mean, there were days that I probably spent 24 hours in the office just proving myself. Yes, absolutely.
Bags
it was
under your eyes.
Bags under my eyes. It was what we were ingrained to do, right? As a student athlete, right? You go in, you have extra reps, right? Yeah. And so I embraced that. And from there, my career took off. And I was just happy to be a part of an organization and an industry that, again, gave me so much, and I was able to pour that back into the student athletes that I was exposed to.
Right, yeah, which was excellent. Now you find yourself in a deputy role.
Yes.
And you've been at Northwestern how long now?
5 years.
5 years.
Going into my 6th season.
Right, so you've been through a change in leadership. You've been through the ups and downs that you can see in college athletics, in any organization that you see. I wonder about staying steady when things are all over the place, whether it be the industry, whether it be locally on campus, whether it be a change in leadership, whether it be lawsuits, whether it be whatever. Staying steady, continuing to exist in who you are, and supporting student athletes and the department and the institution at a high level. Tell me about that.
Right. Staying steady is hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard in this industry if you don't have a center. And for me, my center is my faith. Okay. Right. Just believing that the Lord has something bigger for me, that He puts me in a position where I can be of influence for His work and His glory, not for mine. Yep. And so, whenever things seem to be unsteady, you always have to center yourself, or at least I do, center myself and say, okay, Lord, I'm in this position. What is it that you want from me? And the words that I often hear is, be still and know that I'm God. Okay. And so that centers me, and that has throughout my career, not only as a professional, but as a mother. I'm a mother of 3. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have a 14-year-old soon. That's a bit scary. Mm-hmm. High school is approaching. I have a 10-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. So 2 girls, 1 boy. And as you can imagine, just being a full-time mother, trying to manage a big job and just expectations internally, externally, at home with my husband. There's plenty of times where you feel like you're not centered, but, oftentimes I pray and ask the Lord for guidance, and He gives it to me. And that's something that is near and dear to my heart, and one that I would highly recommend to anyone that's listening to this, because, in your life, you just need that one center and peace that really keeps you grounded.
Have you ever, and this is a question you probably don't have to answer, have you ever found yourself questioning that? Maybe times are so tough, and you're like, is this really, am I,
you asked, Mr. Brown, so I have to answer. Okay. I think as humans, we often ask ourselves that at one point or another in our life. But, I live on faith, right?
And that's the definition of the word, right?
Exactly. And at some point in your life, you have to come to a point where, okay, am I going to live on faith? Or am I going to live on the words of other people and, just different experiences that others have? Or am I going to live on the experience that I've had? And I've believed that I've had a real encounter with the Lord that keeps me focused and just really allows me to share with others, right, my faith and why. And so, I mean, it's an easy answer for me to give, but sometimes faith is hard for people to wrap their arms around, because sometimes people need to see. And I would say for me, I'm a visual learner, so I need to see a lot of things as well. But in this case, I've seen so many things in my own life that really have manifested themselves in supernatural ways where I just says, it's not me, it's God, right? Yep. It's so I've taken my own personal experiences and applied that to my faith. And I said, well, there's no other way but for me to kind of follow what I believe to be true. And it's not always for everyone, but certainly the question, I think, in my life has been there, but it's gotten me to the point where I've made that decision, and I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it right now. It's where I am.
There's a point as a parent, and I'm not a parent, don't have any kids, nephews and nieces, but I've seen people, and
You can give them back.
I've seen
give the kids back.
Right, exactly. But I'm there. Be a resource to my family, close friends, and community. That's my purpose, right? Where your kids, you realize that your parents are human, I don't know if 14 if they've gotten there yet, but they will see the real you, right?
Right.
They're always going to love you as mother, but you will see
Right.
that, oh, mama's not this perfect human being, right?
Right.
Tell me about that. Tell me if you've experienced that as a kid or if you've seen other, I mean,
100%.
yeah,
And other people probably have heard me say this, but I've lived with mom guilt for a very long time.
Really?
Yeah, throughout, as soon as I became a mother. When I was at the NCAA, I was working as an associate director with the Division I women's basketball staff and championships. And I lived out in Indy, and I was going to have my first child, Grace. And I was traveling a lot then. We used to travel to different cities, really scoping out, the championship cities and visiting with local organizing committees. And my husband and I just knew very shortly after that we felt like we needed a village around us. And so we made our way back to New York, where I'm originally from, and his family is from there as well. And I remember wanting to take some time off just to learn how to become a mother.
Yep.
Right? It's so different, right? You go from being by yourself, in control of your own destiny and your own life, and then all of a sudden you have a child, and it's like that goes all up.
Depends on you 150%.
Depends on you all around. So, but at some point, my husband reminded me that we did not live in the Midwest anymore. We lived in New York. So he was like, "So, what's the next plan in your career path?" And I ended up working at Madison Square Garden, which is professional sports, not collegiate sports. And so we know there it's kind of like business-minded individuals, innovative. You're working around the best in the business. And at the time, I worked with the Knicks, the Rangers, and the New York Liberty. And so talk about long hours. At the time, I was working with our brands and our partnerships. And I would go to games, so I would get up really early and come back at night. And my daughter at the time was maybe 2. And I found myself missing those special moments of her growing up.
right.
And at that point, I was just like, man, that mom guilt set in, because I would come home and, my mother would say something like, "Oh, she did this today." And I was just like, "What? I missed that. What do you mean?"
I don't even tell me, bro.
Yeah. And so I ended up transitioning back to college athletics in a world that was more familiar to me, one that I felt like I can continue to grow our family. But even throughout that, you always put 110% behind everything that you do if that's in you. And that was in me. And I always wanted to be that example to my children and to my daughter and my son, and that you can do whatever you put your mind to, but you have to have that work ethic. You have to put the time in. And oftentimes, living in a microwave society, our young men and women, they just feel like everything's supposed to happen right away, right? You kind of like Instagram, Instacart, everything is right away. But that wasn't my model moving, growing. And so even in college athletics, along with professional sports, I always felt like I just wasn't enough. And so when we talk about, these moments of not feeling enough, it's that, like, I've always felt that mom guilt, that I couldn't be the best mother or the best spouse or the best professional. But you mentioned something earlier about a book that you read, and it's about positive talk and just not speaking negativity into your life. And so for me, you really get to a point where you're just like, I'm enough.
Yeah.
I'm enough. I'm doing what I need to do. 1, to provide for my family along with my husband, but 2, to be the best version of myself. So that way, when my daughter wants to do something very similar, she has a great example. And so at some point, you have to then set in, you have that mom guilt, and I think that's with life in general. But at the same time, you're doing the best that you can in every single one of those things. And no one says you have to be an expert in one thing. As long as you're putting your best foot forward in your life, then you can go to sleep at night knowing that you've done right by your family.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting. And your husband, tell me how he has supported that, right? And helped you, this is an assumption, help you arrive to the point where you can say that I'm enough.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You can say it because it's 100% true.
Okay.
He's been one of my biggest advocates, supporters, and someone that, understood me from the very beginning. He always knew that I was ambitious, that I really wanted to do the best at whatever job it was, even in basketball or being a mother or whatever it was. And he supported me throughout that. He understood who I was, and vice versa. And we've just made it our life's passion to support each other in everything that we've done. And Most recently, I've done the same for him. He's kind of like a COVID rebirth in his career. He went back to law school, not back, but he started law school, and now he's an attorney. So he started out as an educator for 15 years, and now he's going down this different path, and I've supported him in his schooling. And so we've just found a way to grow together after 18 years and understood that even individually we may have ambitions, but together we can support each other through anything. And that's being a parent, or that's being a professional, and that's, just enjoying each other as a family unit. And, again, through our faith, it's just really brought us to a point where I don't know that we're content just yet, right? I still have to get through high school with my 3 children, so I think that's going to take a lot of faith and growth. But no, he's been one of my biggest supporters, and I couldn't ask for a better partner in life.
I'll ask this last question, then we'll wrap. Thinking about your time there at Northwestern, 5 years, would you say?
5 years.
5 years. Let's say next year you go and become the president of the New York Knicks, right?
Wow, that's
And you have to, at some point, tell the story of the influence you had on Northwestern. How would you tell that story? Meaning, like, this wouldn't have happened if I wasn't there. How would you tell that story without using those words, right? And it's ongoing right now.
Yeah, no, it is ongoing, but that's an interesting question. I don't know. It's a hard one to answer, because I think without an entire unit to really embrace and work together, I don't know that I could have done anything on my own. Right? So I think just allowing a group of talented individuals to exercise their expertise, their education, their residency, and what they're great at. I don't know that we are where we are today. Okay. I mean, certainly Northwestern, we've gone through some highs and lows and gone through adversity, but every single time I can say that we've come out of every single experience that much better. Mm-hmm. This year alone, we won 7 conference championships. Last year, we had 7 Big Ten, head coaches that were at the pinnacle of their career. And so I've just been around greatness. I've been around, professionals that have given of themselves every single day through COVID, through ups and downs, through wins, losses. And I think allowing them to do what they do and do it really well. If I were to ever be the president of the New York Knicks, that would be a lifelong dream, because I'm a Knickerbocker for life. I'm as they say, like, I'm one of the loyal Knicks fans. But I would hope that, just allowing people to be themselves, bring their best selves to work every day, be creative, be innovative, and just invoke their expertise and what they know how to do into an organization to really bring it to the next level. Yeah. So
I'm gonna try to rephrase that, right, to make sure we're not just deflecting. So you're saying that you helped to create an environment where the people within that environment could be successful at what they do to help the student athletes in a university to be successful.
Right. Sometimes you just have to let people go.
Okay.
Right? As Steve Jobs says, you don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. Mm-hmm. You hire smart people so they can tell you what to do.
Okay.
And I think oftentimes as leaders, we sometimes don't allow that to happen. And, I would say over my time at Northwestern, that's proven to be true time and time again. We have so many talented people, and as a member of our executive staff, sometimes you just have to allow your team to do what you've hired them to do, because they're smart, they're educated, they're experts in their field. And certainly I am no stranger to sometimes inserting myself, and then sometimes you have to take a step back. It's like, what? They have this. They're great at what they do. And so I think that I've been able to do that in a way that has allowed us to be successful in many of the ways. I've seen that with our head coaches. They're incredible. And many athletic departments are built on the shoulders of student athletes, staff, and head coaches that are just great at what they do. So just being able to allow them to do that, I hope that that's helped in our trajectory.
Which is excellent. Well, Deneé, it sounds like Northwestern has a great asset on the team, great leader within the department and on campus. And I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. That was Deneé Barracato, Deneé is a Deputy Athletics Director over Operations and Capital Projects at Northwestern. And of course, this is Ty Brown with one question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.